Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Well, good Friday morning, political fighters. Welcome to the August 14th, 2026 edition of Choose Views at 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube. Yeah, of course, you can be all those places. You know, Facebook, that's always a good place to hang out. You can watch it live. You can see the pictures. You can see me waving at the camera right now. Same thing on YouTube, but also make sure you're wherever you are, really anywhere that you get TuneIn Radio, you can check out our show. So if you have friends and family and folks you know, and you're like, hey, I found this show, this guy, he's in Chicago, seems like a pretty okay dude. You should check out his show. And they're like, well, how am I going to listen to it? I'm not in Chicago. And your friend or family member or colleague is in, I don't know, San Diego or, Oklahoma. Tell them to check out our social platforms, Facebook Live. You know, they can go to TuneIn Radio, and that's really a good one. That's an app that they can actually put on their device and check out not just my show, but so many other good progressive shows. Been wanting to say that to you guys. Make sure that you're sharing how people can find the show, my show, and others through the sources that we use. As you guys know, we're also on WARR down in North Carolina and KTNF in Minnesota. And email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Shout out to a couple of folks that sent emails to me. I was able to get back with you and answer your questions. And a couple of you guys have given me some homework assignments. So I'll be working on that and trying to provide you with some of the information that you requested. Follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Just dropped a new article on Substack, so you'll want to check that out. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There, of course, you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home, It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And always make your way to our evening programming, which includes the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show. And you know, Heartland Signal is probably one of the best places to be to get some of that local, Midwestern, Heartland news. But it's also good content to share with the people that you know, and you can pass that along to anybody, anywhere on the planet. How about that? How cool is that? So there you go. Want to make sure you guys that listen, that follow, that watch, however you catch our show, that you share it with the people that you care about, because that's how we continue to build. You know, we can be part of the folks that build our tent. Obviously, the politicians are the ones that are, with the quote leading voices. They're the ones that are running for office and that hold offices. But we as everyday folks and small business owners and all the rest, we can be a part of that tent building as well and keeping the tent up and strong. And part of the way to do that is by sharing the information that we provide to you with those who you want to keep in the mix. On today's show, someone that definitely is sharing lots of information and keeping everybody plugged in is Karen Byrne, co-host of True Blue Politics Podcast. She has a great article on Substack that we're going to talk about today when she's on, and a few other current news items. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, South African-born human rights lawyer who directs the African Human Rights Coalition, Melanie Nathan, who's been with us before, will be joining us to talk about immigration, deportation, human rights in that process. So looking forward to chatting with Melanie about that. And then we're going to be taking your calls throughout the course of the show. So you guys get lined up. We may not get you on during Melanie's segment, but while Karen is on, we may drop a few calls in there. So get your notebooks and notepads ready. And definitely we'll be taking your calls in the 7:30 segment of the show. So let us know what's on your mind. I promised you guys we were going to do that today. And I want to keep my promise in that space. So We've got some space to designed to take your calls today, both when Karen is on and, of course, in the 7:30 hour. So in the 6:30 to 7 and then the 7:30 to 8, we will be yapping it up with you guys. So be ready. Okay, so it's Friday. And if you can believe it, it's the 14th of August. My goodness, we've made it completely through 7 months, really 7.5 months, that we're in the, kind of the middle or around the corner from the middle of August. So that's good on us that we just keep moving forward. We can just keep chugging along. If you're in Chicago this weekend, one of the big events that takes place is the Air and Water Show, which if you're in the Chicagoland area, and I say area because you can be pretty much anywhere within, I'd say, a 75-mile radius, and you're going to hear these thunderous sounds, which are the Blue Angels flying around doing their test runs yesterday, and today, of course, again. And then, of course, the Air and Water Show takes place this weekend here in Chicago. So if you're here for it, you know what you're doing. If you're here and you didn't know what was going on, don't be shocked. It's the Air and Water Show, which is a tradition here as far back as I can remember. And if you're coming to Chicago, like if you are just gotten up and you're on your way to the airport and you're flying to Chicago and you didn't know that the Air and Water Show is going on, just to give you a little bit of a heads up. So that's what's going on today. And if you're driving and you hear one of those Blue Angels go flying by, try your best not to look up if you're in traffic, because you don't want to see or have you plowing in the back of another vehicle. So if you hear one go by, just, thumbs up, keep your hand on the steering wheel, your other hand on the steering wheel, a big smile on your face, but don't look up in the sky to see if you can see the plane, because odds are you might get lucky and see one, but you don't want to, end up forgetting that there might be a vehicle in front of you. So there you go. All right. Since it's Friday, I wanted to, I don't know, we go through so many, or we talk about so many different things, and most of it's, politics, social issues, our economic issues, all the things that we're dealing with as a community, local and regional and national community. And so our question of the day is most of the time about something very political. But I thought I'd ask you a little bit of a different question of the day that I was driving, actually, and this popped into my brain. I was like, yeah, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to ask this question. So the question of the day is, like I said, let's have some fun with our question of the day as we head into the weekend. And what is your favorite yacht rock song? Okay, I'll say it again. What is your favorite yacht rock song? We all kind of have an idea. I think we should know what yacht rock is. If you don't, look it up and then answer that question, because I want to hear. Let's just have some fun with it today. Let's do our best to kind of break the mold and have a non-political question. But you guys may have a song that's actually something that's political. I don't know. Who knows, Henry? But that's the question of the day. Let's have some fun with it. What is your favorite yacht rock song? I have one. It is clearly my favorite one. It has been for a long time. I'm not going to tip my hand just yet, but I'm going to write it down so that Henry knows I'm being completely honest with you as we start to get some questions answered. So send us a text to 773-763-9278 or give us a call, the same number. We are going to be taking your calls, so let's get you squared away. And you can go to our Facebook page and let us know there by leaving us a comment as to what your favorite yacht rock song is. And I have mine. I'm going to write it down right now so that Henry can go, okay, Richard's being truthful and honest with us all. And I'm going to show it to him, and he'll go, okay, so if it's somebody else's, it won't be me just sort of like lobbing on with them. But let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 here in Chicago. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Choose Views. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us on this August 14th, 2026. Let's hit them with a couple of quick Choose Views news items. Henry, Economists see another sign of inflation is that inflation is easing. Ironically, wholesale prices remained flat last month as energy prices dipped modestly. In what economists see is yet another sign that inflation may be beginning to cool. The producer price index was unchanged in July after declining a meager 0.01% in June. And the Labor Department said yesterday forecasts had shown a 0.2% increase per CNBC. A separate federal report out yesterday also revealed that fewer Americans than expected filed claims for unemployment benefits last week, a favorable sign of a decent labor market. Credit card debt nears an all-time high as delinquencies rise. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York data showed U.S. credit card balances rising to $1.26 trillion in the second quarter, just under last year's record. Higher spending and higher pricey items on essentials added to credit card use, while serious delinquencies have also increased to the highest level since 2022. There are lots of households who are living paycheck to paycheck and just needs one thing to happen to them that could lead to a delinquency. The tariff refund boost is helping the bottom lines of companies like Nike, Apple, and a few others. They've recorded hundreds of millions in refunds for tariffs that were struck down by the Supreme Court, according to the Wall Street Journal. Many are reporting refunds as part of earnings and boosting their quarterly results. Apple, for example, has $2.2 billion in refunds for instance and contributed 11 cents per share to their recent earnings. Nike has recorded nearly $1 billion, FedEx roughly $800 million, and GM a little over $500 million. Some of that money is being returned to consumers through companies like Caterpillar. Worried workers are craving career stability, survey is showing a pervasive sense of economic uncertainty as Americans more concerned with career stability than quality of life, according to new results in recent surveys in which 54% of respondents said they were willing to take a pay cut in order to keep working. A few years ago, workers prioritized work-life balance. Now sentiments have shifted into protecting their overall job career, according to reports from USA Today. And then last but not least, you can make extra money training robots to, quote, replace you. How about this one? Kind of weird. A new side hustle for the AI era, recording yourself at work. So humanoid robots can be trained to do the same task. Robot makers hope the avalanche of data can help turn their offerings from expensive showpieces into real workhorses. Some say, coming from various experts in the AI space. The money at stake is mind-boggling. The market for humanoid robots and associated products may reach $7 trillion by 2050, according to Citigroup. Critics are warning, however, that the risk of exploitation, workers earning very little to unknowingly train their own replacements, is also obviously a large concern. Training them to take your job. That's craziness. There you go, guys. A couple of quick Choose Views news items on this August 14th, 2026. Let us know what your Yacht Rock song is. I'm very curious, so I want to see what your texts are, and if you call in, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. All right. So today, for those listening to WCPT on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Chris Fitzsimmons, who is the host of the Stories from the States podcast, and Darlene Dugan, head of Anti-Cruelty. Live, Local, and Progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. For our listeners, also tonight, driving in home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Michigan State Rep Penelope Cernerglue. She'll talk about the allegations of sexual abuse at the Interlochen Center for the Arts. Also, Dr. Caitlin McHugh-Glab, who is a change agent for the Myopia Collective, a new initiative aimed at rallying the profession of optometry to realize a new standard for children with myopia. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez is weekdays from 5 to 7 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow, our listeners, WCP listeners, it's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. Eric Garcia, Washington Bureau Chief at The Independent. Bruce Finucane will be with him as well, Senior Advisor with the U.S. Program at the International Crisis Group and former Attorney Advisor at the U.S. Department of State. Jill Lawrence, author of The History Keeps Happening Substack newsletter. And Dean Baker, co-founder and senior economist at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, will be joining Edwin tomorrow. That's from 1 until 4. My guests on Monday include Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist and host of the Endless Urgency podcast. Also next week, North Carolina Democratic Chair Anderson Clayton will be back with us, in Ohio House Minority Leader Junie Isaacson, and Illinois Congressman Sean Casten. Just a few of the people that will be joining us this week. Make sure on Sunday you are checking out Scott Duff and Ellen Miller. They invite you to spend Sunday brunch with them from 11 until 1 here on WCPT, and some of their best and your best and their best gay friends. Each week on Out Chicago, they tackle today's headlines from a queer perspective and focus on the accomplishments of the vibrant LGBTQ community in Chicago and across the globe. Out Chicago is Chicago's only live broadcast for the LGBTQ community, and frankly, I would say one of the best in the country. But what can I say? It's Chicago. It's what we do. We push the envelope. Imperfect as we are, but we still keep pushing hard. So check out Chicago this weekend, specifically on Sunday from 11 until 1. All righty. So how do I want to launch into this in terms of today's segment of Something to Chew On? And I've been thinking about this for a while, and in part saying versions of it bit by bit through the course of this week. And I thought I would put this together as part of today's Something to Chew On, today's segment of Something to Chew On. Democrats, progressives, and all the rest of the tent, we are winning. We have won special elections, off-year elections, and now we are selecting our candidates in the primaries. So let's not be the team that gets to the goal line and fumbles. What do I mean by that? Well, as I've said before, and I've said this before, if you did not get your candidate in the primary election, accept it. Be the adult in the room and work hard to come together with the candidate who did. For example, in Texas, we have truly a first real shot at winning a U.S. Senate seat in quite a while. In Maine, Troy Jackson is truly making huge strides and is ready to beat Susan Collins. She should be concerned and troubled. In Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan is leading the way and is an odds-on favorite to beat Michelle Tafoya, who is also known as Minnesota's Nancy Mace. Roy Cooper in North Carolina has what it takes to win that race, so let's give Governor Josh Stein another ally in Washington. You know the story in Michigan, and by the way, Dr. El Sayed is a progressive, so make sure to tell your moderate friends that fact so we can go and beat Mike Rogers and save that Senate seat. There are, of course, other races in the House and the Senate, and as Heather Williams from the DLCC reminded us yesterday, state legislatures matter more than ever before. So let's win some governor's mansions back as well. Can you hear me, Texas? Let's get Gina Hinojosa the support she needs, and the same is true for David Jolly in Florida. Folks, all of these elections mean something to me. Even though I don't live in those states, it's important to me that we win in those states because I want to see our country move back into a better direction. It won't be a perfect direction. We know that already. But it will have to be better than the course that we've been on this last decade. Even with Joe Biden as president for 4 years, we still had to deal with the fight and the fury and the anger and the disgust of what Donald Trump represented and still does represent now that he has been reelected to president. We've suffered so many losses, both in life and in treasure, that it's time for us to work together and move our country back into a better direction. As I've said so many times, and I know I will say it again, our country has never been perfect. And frankly, I don't want our country to be perfect because if we were, we'd have nothing to strive for. I want our country to continue to be aspirational. I want our country to continue to fight and fight forward. I want our country to fight for the least among us. I want our country to cherish all the things that we say are important to us and do it in a way that is inclusive, not exclusive. The Republican Party used to be a party that some could say was a balanced party and one that showed a certain amount of care for the country. It doesn't represent that now. Don't fool yourself. And what has happened is that so many people who have gotten caught up, as the late Congressman Elijah Cummings said to Michael Cohen, you got caught up. Much of the country has gotten caught up in the lies, the deceit, and all of the anger. So even though I don't live in any of these states, I have family, friends, true colleagues, and frankly, I'm tired of the feckless, incompetent, racist, sexist, biased, destructive fools being in charge of our government on all levels. So, as the Beatles song says, come together right now. Let's get this done. All of us Democrats, we have a responsibility to our country to get this done. Stop the infighting. Let's pull ourselves together. Let's make sure that we work to win in every place that we can to make sure that we take back what we believe is the country that we believe in. Something to chew on, guys, on this August 14th, 2026. You know, you'll probably hear me talk about many of those things again in the future, but I figured that today, since we were 7.5 months into this year, that I would do my best to provide you with a reminder of what we can achieve and why we can achieve it, but more importantly, how we can achieve it. And frankly, one of the easiest things to do is to come together. It may not be the thing that you think you want to do, but if we plan on surviving this, then it means we have to come together and we have to fight together, not against each other. So there you go, guys. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Of course, this is Chew's Views. I'm Richard Chew. And I just was reminded by Jim that the Air and Water Show here in Chicago may be compromised because we're supposed to have some pretty severe thunderstorms. So both, we don't want guys and gals up in planes, on boats, and we certainly don't want people walking around if it's thundering and lightning. So please, y'all, take caution. Please, please, please. We've had a good summer of not many tragedies with some of our public events. The different concerts, Lollapalooza was a pretty low-key from the injury standpoint, which is always a blessing, and so many other things that have gone off really particularly well. Right, let's keep it moving forward. Voters just, right now don't like it when there's this feeling of, what do I want to call it? How about this? Fascism. We can't stand fascism. And when someone writes about it, we got to give them their flowers. This is Fascism is the article title of Karen Burns' latest in her Resistance Journal Substack. Good morning, Karen, and welcome back to Chew's Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me, as always.
All right.
Hey, you know what? It is not a good day for yacht rock. It is not a good day to get on your yacht.
Well, true. That is what we're dealing with when it comes to the weather and the Air and Water Show. But I got to ask you, so that you went there. I was going to go there anyhow. So what's your song? I already told Henry what mine is. What's your song?
Okay, so the first song that popped into my head, which now I know that it says per the interwebs that it's not yacht rock, was "I'm All Out of Love" by Air Supply. But I actually,
I'm all about
yeah.
you. Okay,
Yeah,
got y'all there, huh?
That was the song that popped into my head, but. I'm looking at a list, and I would have to say, if I'm calling a favorite, I would say "Saturday in the Park" by Chicago. It was listed as number 9. Yeah.
That's on my list. It's not my favorite, but it is on my list. And the crazy thing about it, that is really, I won't say it's weird, but that is a little spooky. That is what was on my music box. Because Henry and I were talking, I was like, I was listening, and then we came back to commercial. That's what was playing on my music channel. And one of their older songs that was a blend of their sort of jazz and horns and vocals with this jazz station I listened to. And that's when I was like, it might be, let's ask a question about yacht rock. So there you go.
Yacht rock.
Put some smile on our faces. But okay, Saturday in the Park, that is a good one. It's a classic, and it's one of my favorites as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Are you gonna reveal your favorite?
Now that you asked me, I guess I have to, because I was hoping that nobody would ask me. But yeah. But I know who I'm dealing with, so why did I think that I would get that luxury?
I mean, you can, but
go ahead.
You can hold on to it if you want.
My favorite, or the one that comes to mind most immediately, is the song "Sailing" by Christopher Cross.
Christopher Cross, yes. Me too.
That'll go back 40 plus years. But, and ironically, this weekend is the best for, particularly for sailing here in Lake Michigan. But that's mine. That's mine. I have a lot of favorites, but that's the one that probably rises to the top. And so there you go.
Yeah, it was hard. I'm going to say, I think I am kind of a yacht rock gal, because Summer Breeze, that's on this list.
Oh yeah, and my favorite version of Summer Breeze is the one that's done by the Isley Brothers. Seals and Croft obviously wrote the song, but the Isley Brothers really popularized it as well too. Listen to their version of it, guys. Go Google the Isley Brothers Summer Breeze. It is, and it's been covered by a lot of jazz musicians over the years too. So
yeah, here's another one though, Sister Golden Hair. Oh. I really like that song. Yeah, I'm looking at these. I'm like, I could do all
Well, that's
these.
why I said
Rich
for folks
Girl,
who don't know what yacht rock is or soft rock, one of the things that's unique about it is it's influenced highly by jazz. In most cases, the back music, the backbeat is influenced by a lot of jazz chords. So there you go. But Chicago, big horn sound. You know, they. What I always wanted to see is if Chicago and Earth, Wind and Fire could have played together because of the horns of those two groups. So there you go.
That would be amazing. Yes.
All right, Karen. So listen, guys. I've had Karen on a number of times. And we've talked about a variety of things. And one of the groups or individuals that we've had on is a woman named Heidi Beirich. And Heidi is in partnership with another woman that started an organization that was really all about making sure that fascism was talked about and highlighted, and that we were aware of its impact globally. And this is kind of the lead into what Karen is going to chat about for the next few minutes before we go to break. So Karen, you take it away.
Wendy Vai and Heidi Beirich came onto my radar when we just started our podcast in November 2023, and we were looking for content, and we had just heard about Project 2025. And they are experts. Both of these women worked for the Southern Poverty Law Center for 20 years. During COVID, they started their own organization, the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Please go and support their work. They investigate expand on further the work of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which was indicted by the DOJ at the end of April, supposedly for fraud. The DOJ's claim is that they did not inform their donors that they were going to be using their money to pay informants. In actuality, it is absolutely in print. So, and every single donor that they talked to said, no, we fully expected that we would be paying informants.
And who are they? But it's important to also denote, Karen, I'm not interrupting you, who they were informing on.
Yes. So they look into extremist groups in the United States. So the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Klan. They brought, people that were. I'm sorry, the Southern Poverty Law Center took down the Klan, and so now Wendy and Heidi are continuing that work and warning about, and Heidi was actually one of the people, and I just learned this yesterday when I was reading about it, not even in my conversations with her, did I realize that she actually did counsel the J6 committee. To help them do their work. So very important work. But now because she was a director in the Southern Poverty Law Center, she was arrested 2 days ago in California at her home. And, and she's out. I did message back and forth with Wendy. She said they're actually doing okay. Her attorney, of course, says that he is going to clear her of all the charges, that she did nothing wrong. And they're basically saying that she also, committed fraud, and there was something about money laundering and, on and on. It's trumped up. It's another example of Kash Patel in the FBI, and now Todd Blanche in the AG's office and the DOJ. Weaponizing their power against private citizens who are simply doing non-for-profit work to keep all of us safe. They do reporting about counterterrorism. It's just a wealth of information that these ladies provide. And so this is extremely upsetting, and of course they're not as high profile as the James Comey, but it's the same thing. And This is an example, Karen, of the first thing that I thought of is, oh my goodness, this is when I asked the question about who our listeners thought would be on the list of folks that Todd Blanche would target as the head of the DOJ, as the Attorney General, through Trump, indirectly through Trump, and this wasn't on my radar. Because it just wasn't on my radar. But I go back and I say, all right, so I play this out two ways. I always do this when it comes to an accusation of someone. I play it out and I say, well, what is it that the accusing party has as evidence, particularly at this level, to go forward with an arrest or an indictment or a charge in this particular case? And I go back and say, okay, what evidence do they have? Well, the evidence that they have may lead to one thing, but it may not be conclusive to actually get a conviction, an indictment and a conviction. That's how our legal system works. In this case, some of the things that have been highlighted, misuse of donor funds, which they disclosed, to your point, that they were going to use some of the money toward paying informants that were actually looking in on groups like the KKK. And that there's also a charge of concealment and money laundering. Well, when you're paying an informant, the way in which you get that money from A to B to C could be viewed as something that's concealment or money laundering because of the way in which you're trying to keep the money hidden and private. Again, I'm not taking a defense of them or furthering the accusation. No.
But
we have to be clear because that is important. The context is important.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to kind of go through that real quickly. But at the end of the day, when I go back to the conversation around how much, how do I want to say this? How much this administration wants to go after anybody that is on their list of people that have pushed back against them. then this is what we could be this is what we could be dealing with, is that, you know, the individuals and some organizations are going to be attacked by this DOJ. Meanwhile, the guy who's been convicted 34 times and is now legitimately convicted as a rapist is running scot-free, running our country, walking around, falling asleep, having to have someone carry diapers for him, lying to us about which plane they're on, putting in danger more and more of his cabinet. That's what we're dealing with. So fingers crossed that Heidi's attorneys are going to be able to pull her through this, and the Southern Poverty Law Center have the ability to fight back on this.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing that's important for all of us to know. And I've looked this up. So fascist regimes I'm going to say this again. I'm sorry, it's early. Systematically prosecute political opponents by dismantling legal safeguards, using secret police and turning courts into political tools. Historic regimes like Nazi Germany and fascist Italy outlawed rival parties, jailed critics without fair trials, and used state power to crush dissent. So, that's what this really feels like. And, I think that people really need to be aware of the moment that we're in. When we see things like this is exactly what it is. So, Republicans, if you guys get butthurt about hearing, yourselves referred to as fascists, well, then don't do fascist, what.
Exactly. Well, listen, what comes to mind, and we'll take a quick break, is the movie Black Klansman. When I thought about what's happening, I thought about, infiltration, payoffs, police, local police, and all the rest being involved. There's some tinges of the movie Black Klansman in what's gone on with the situation with Heidi and the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yep. I
won't spill the tea. Go watch the movie. Not you, Karen, but anybody. Go watch the movie. You'll be surprised. Maybe you won't be. But it's a great and it's based on true events. Let's put it that way, of infiltration and how money and resources were moved around privately. Some would have potentially said that there was money laundering that went on. However, it was designed to do something that this country still doesn't want to acknowledge, and that is that the KKK existed and that they still do. And in this case, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been dogged about going after American extremist groups, which, by the way, folks, exist. They are real. So there you go.
Sure do. Some of them were at the Capitol.
Yeah,
right, go ahead.
Exactly. And some of them wear blue suits, white shirts, and red ties. So there you go.
Yeah.
Karen, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to Chew's Views. If you're just tuning in, it's me hanging out with our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast. She's a ginger, y'all. She's a ginger, in case you don't know. Oh, Karen, let's talk about some stuff that's happened this week. And I know that you got your resume dusted off and ready to go because you're sending it to the White House because you're like, listen, I need to be the new. Didn't think I was going to hit you with that one, huh? We're going to go from a fake blonde to a true ginger that'll be at the podium handling the White House press corps.
Oh my.
Talk to us, Karen. Your girl, your girl Caroline is gone. Aren't you so upset?
Caroline. Yeah, KK Caroline. Emphasis on the lion. Yeah, listen, okay. The timing of it, I'm telling you, she was on that plane.
There you go.
Was on that
Come
plane.
on.
That's what that was. She was big mad that she found out that was she was on the decoy plane, and that was it. The timing of it is something else. I mean, Don't tell me, oh, I want to spend more time with my family. No, I don't believe it. Yeah, bye, girl.
Bye, Felicia. Listen, Henry and I were yucking it up a little bit yesterday about it. We were like, we took a very, sort of adult way of looking at it. Not that yours isn't, but we were saying, because I agree with you. I agree with you, by the way. But
define adult.
Right.
Now.
I was like,
really?
right. Henry and I were like, okay, this is what happened. She's probably standing in the kitchen holding her newborn, and her 2-year-old came up and said, "Mommy, everybody at daycare says you lie."
Yeah, right.
And she got tired of her 2-year-old coming up to her and saying, "Mommy, they said that you lie, and Mommy, you work for a guy that." So anyhow, I can't say on air what Henry and I actually said in private.
Mommy, what's a decoy plane?
Right. That's what happened. The oldest one came out and said, "Mommy, what's a decoy plane? Do you have a wait, Mommy, do you have a decoy plane?"
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So yeah. I think that may have had some influence on it. And maybe she has a soul after all in that space. But actually, no. She didn't do anything different to change her behavior until the ire was focused on her. And she was put in the bucket that we've been telling her and all of the rest of her little fancy ones running around. You're going to catch it too. And here's the crazy thing, Karen. You said this was probably going to happen. I said this was probably going to happen. Interestingly, the people that have been removed from their post or have resigned under whatever, shadow of darkness in the last 12 months, what is it that they all have in common?
They're all women, I believe, is the answer that you're looking for.
Front of the classroom, first chair on the far right, near the door.
Well, listen, and I mean, we can't feel too sorry for Caroline Levitt because she's going to end up on Fox News or she's going to have a little gig on Newsmax. She's going to land on her feet, and then we're just going to be subjected to another mouthpiece that's going to get up there and yell at the press and lie to the American public about everything. And she was there was definitely something especially, I don't even know the right word to call it, but especially just
B-wordy.
Ooh, yeah.
So let me tell
exactly.
let me tell you what it was for me with her is that she had a stacked deck, meaning that there weren't going to be any questions in there that the follow-up pinned her back. For example, when she would say, like, I remember talking to a friend of mine about this. I said, if I were in that room and Caroline, and I asked her a question about something, and she said, so Richard, you must, obviously that's coming from you. You're one of those left-wing, blah, blah, blah journalists. I would have said, yeah, you're right, because you're one of the, when she said you're a left-wing hack, I would have said, you're right, because I'm here to balance out you being a right-wing hack. Nobody was in the room to push her like that, and that was by design, so the deck was stacked. And so she never really got tested by somebody like an April Ryan who would have said, yo, girl, I'm old enough to be your mama, okay? And that kind of heat she didn't get.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Right.
Yeah.
But they stacked the deck because, they want to capture that estate of our democracy. So that's part of what was going on there. So bye, girl, as you said. Bye. Downhill on roller skates.
Don't let the door... Yeah, don't let the door hit you.
Yeah, well, if it does, we'll keep it as clean as we can. I got my ginger friend laughing this morning, so I feel like I've done my duty. So there you go.
Yeah, so I was listening to your economic report earlier.
Yeah.
And how all the economists and the labor department. First of all, I don't believe anything coming from the government at this point. But the other thing, too, is it's like, the big question that I have is, like, people aren't feeling it. And then when you talk about credit cards being used at a higher rate and people driving up their debt, essentially, I mean, that is not, to me, that completely offsets. Because, and I'm going to be,
right.
honest, that offsets any flatness to the market, any stabling of the leveling out of the market, all that just completely offsets it because now there's more debt, and that means more money. that means more money that people are having to pay because of the interest rates.
Well, and then
charge.
that means they also have less disposable income. They have the spread shrinks in terms of their debt to income ratio, or however people like to say it, income to debt ratio. That changes. And then the other thing that also makes that really kind of it's reporting what's being put out there. But here's the thing. When those numbers in terms of the flatness of the economy or interest rates settling in or any of those numbers, they're always numbers that are essentially behind us. And so although they report what took place, what really is concerning to me is what's about to take place. When credit card debt increases, that reduces the ability for people to spend, because now they've maxed out. They've been using other monies. And I've talked about this before in terms of the number of people in America, documented, not fake news for those on the right, that are tapping into their retirement plans. So none of this stuff is good. And, in my Substack piece, I talk a little bit about, the fact that Trump has made all these bad decisions because he's incompetent. He just is. So speaking of that, I want to talk about this real quick before we wrap up today, because it hurts my heart that there are men and women who the right always preaches about. Let's protect our men and women in the armed forces. Let's protect our troops. And these MFers, because of this war and because of the fecklessness of this administration, as you've heard, there are sailors who are reportedly at their breaking point and attempting suicide, or their morale is so low that they're on watch. Yeah. That's just that part right there. Stop. Sorry, you go. Because I almost said something I shouldn't have said. I mean, it is absolutely abhorrent. And where are the Republicans? Where are they on this? Always
Why
about the
aren't they
military.
out there screaming about it?
They're always about the military, right? And then now when this is happening, somebody's son and or daughter is having to ration tuna to stay alive. That's a damn shame, y'all.
That is, and they're losing weight, and they don't have toiletries, they don't have anything that, the basic necessities in order to live. And I mean, why are we putting our servicemen and women, why are American lives in danger like that?
Well, it's because, listen, this is, I know, most of us know at least a half a dozen people that have served or are currently serving in our armed forces. That's just how our country's built. We know somebody. We're 1 or 2 degrees of separation from someone or their child that may be active duty.
My brother.
There you go. To spend 38 weeks, that's over 200 days, where you haven't seen land, that starts to affect a person mentally. There's all the data in the world that proves that and backs it up. The exhaustion, the lack of focus, all those things, the readiness, all those things have been sort of flushed down the toilet, no pun intended. Right. But Karen, we're bumping up against time. I don't slam anybody into a hard break. I gently cajole them to walk into it with me, but I am no stranger to heartbreak, so no worries. But so if people want to listen to the piece on fascism, Anita and I are doing dailies on YouTube. Please head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and ring the bell to get us in our notifications. We do have a Patreon for True Blue Politics podcast, and you can listen to any of the episodes with Richard Chu as a special guest, and or Heidi Bayrick and Wendy Vai of the Global Project That's all right. Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, and please go and donate to them because their work is so important, and they are under attack right now. Got it. All right. Got to bounce.
All right.
All right, guys. Love you too. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
Richard Chew's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Chew's Views.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. There she is. There's my friend. Well, listen, if we're going to do certain things in our country in a certain way, if we're going to have policy that's about enforcing certain rules, guidelines, laws, however we want to phrase it, we have to do it with a certain amount of dignity and respect to the rule of law here in the United States, and then how we go about navigating that outside of the country. What am I talking about? Melanie Nathan's been with us before, and she is the executive director of the African Human Rights Coalition, and has been focusing on the rights of all folks when they get caught up in the system. And that's a phrase that, I've used. I don't use it lightly, but they've had to deal with our government's immigration policy, or as I would call it, treat people you don't like with disdain policy, because it's not about immigration right now. It really is not about that. Melanie, welcome back to the show. How you been? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Richard. Thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. I'll start off with this, and I mean it. Are you staying safe? Are you good?
That's a great question. I really appreciate that. I basically haven't left this desk since the last time we spoke, because this administration has us tied to our desks.
Yeah.
And, it's the desk, it's the courtroom, and it's rinse, wash, repeat, sleep, eat, and
get back after it again.
Yeah. But to be honest, nothing feels entirely safe when you watch and observe how all these freedoms are being decimated.
Yeah. One of our other contributors to the show and guests on the show is immigration attorney that's based in Austin. Her name is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. I think Kate will be on with us in the next week or two. And she speaks of it the same way. She stays, sleeves rolled up and elbows deep, constantly in the fight. Wash, rinse, repeat, because, the federal government isn't letting up. And one of the things that she said, Melanie, a couple of visits ago, she said, Richard, we aren't hearing as much about what's happening with immigration like we were at the beginning of the year. We aren't hearing the stories. We aren't hearing the tragedies, but they still exist. And in fact, she said that, media, corporate media specifically, hasn't really been reporting on things as much. And literally the next day, the issue in Texas took place, and then the issue up in Maine took place. And I just wonder, what's your take on how corporate media in the United States is, in your view, handling what's going on with immigration since, the beginning of the year, when we were seeing, it seems like we were seeing something every day, if not every week.
Yes. Well, one thing I've noticed is where I think we are failing is we're not doing a deep dive into the human toll. Mm-hmm. And it's massive right now. What I would think needs to happen is this country needs to hear about what human beings are being subjected to beyond just, and also very importantly, when somebody's killed by our government through the actions of ICE, murdered on our streets, that's huge news, and that ought to consume us. That said, there is a much larger picture at play here. We're having human beings who have been in this country who are by a long chalk not the worst of the worst, who have been in this country for many years, established themselves, have families, children, jobs, pay taxes, being taken off the streets and sent to third countries where they've never been in their lives. And there is no reason for this except to, if you will pardon the expression, de-brown the country. And it's, you know what I mean? I mean, it's proven by the fact that he's bringing in the white South African Afrikaners. That's who he's focused on. And that's his humanity. And these are not even real refugees, in my opinion. There might be an exception or two, but not as a general rule, and not enough to create an entire program around. All the while deporting thousands to third countries where they've never been. So, to your question on the media, I would like to see the human stories told, you know, in depth and a lot more of them.
There are so many of these stories, and so many that are I guess I shouldn't say so many that are. They're all tragic, because deporting people to a place that they've never been before. I don't know the law, international law, well enough, but my instincts tell me that there's got to be some human rights violations there that might be in the same paragraph as war crimes, to some extent, or certainly civil crimes against those individuals, because if they're being deported to a country that they're not originally from, if that's the litmus test we're going to use, that's cruel and inhumane. Would you say differently to that?
It leads to that, but
Okay.
the problem is that what this administration is doing is actually lawful for the most part. It's lawful until it's not. So they have the right under legislation to deport people to countries where they have ACAs, asylum cooperative agreements. So this country has entered into, I believe, between 26 and 30 such agreements, bilateral agreements with other countries. So countries would include Uganda, Ghana, Eswatini, and of course, a host of other African countries. Legally, they can deport people. They can't deport people who have protection orders back to their own countries of persecution. So what they are doing is they're using Africa as a deportation holding for people that they want to get rid of, and they're not the worst of the worst. So what is happening is it is lawful, but here's where it goes wrong. Things have to happen to keep it lawful, for want of a better way of saying it. So the first thing that has to happen is they have to be sent to a place where they're not going to be persecuted and where they're not going to be tortured. That's number one. Number two, they need to have access to a fair procedure that can give them asylum or temporary asylum and certainly protection. So that's where the misstep happens, because most of these countries are incapable of doing that. So the minute the person leaves the American shore, this administration can divorce itself from the responsibility of what that foreign country who is receiving the people under the agreement is actually doing. And what we are seeing is that when they arrive, and I'm generalizing, there's a lot of different scenarios here, but in general, what we're seeing right now is, for example, a person from Cuba can be sent to Central African Republic. A person from Guinea can be sent to Ghana. They've never been there. They don't have any connections to anything. They arrive, immediately get detained, and they get taken by the receiving country to a border and dumped. You can be a woman who has been subjected to female genital mutilation, and you have terrible trauma and psychological issues, and you find yourself on the border of Ghana and Togo. It's just absolutely inhumane and horrendous. And I agree with you, there has got to be some kind of accountability. But a government that doesn't care about its own sailors?
Yeah. Here we go. You know, Melanie, so let me ask you this question, and then we'll take a quick break. The word, when you talk about the agreement being bilateral, that basically lets the country that's receiving human beings, these folks, to not have any responsibility because it's not a unilateral agreement. Or am I looking at it from the wrong angle?
I think you kind of look. Well, here's how you have to look at it. They have an agreement with America, and the U.S. is paying them money to do this.
Okay.
Where is the accountability? Where are they act, when I say bilateral, it's one party talking to the other party. So it's Ghana talking to America and saying to America, we'll
Oh,
take
okay. I get it. I was thinking
Yeah.
that the country that then receives the person that okay, I had it out of order
Yeah.
because I was thinking
Yeah.
bilateral means they both agreed. Unilateral means one agreed or one put it on the other. But it seems like the U.S. is acting in a unilateral way inside of a bilateral agreement.
and vice versa, probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Melanie, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more Melanie Nathan and Chu's Views. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Melanie Nathan, Executive Director of the African Human Rights Coalition. Melanie, this is a question, and I know that you have a huge amount of expertise here. I shouldn't say many, some of the countries that folks are being deported to, where they, one, don't have any sort of connection or affiliation in the first place, never been there before, et cetera. The other thing that's happening, unfortunately, is that they're being deported from the United States to countries that have a strong anti-LGBTQ code or rules and laws. How is this further impacting? Because not everybody that is being deported to these countries is of the LGBTQ plus community, but in some cases, they're being handled, if you will, as though they are. So talk a little bit about that, if you can.
So let me make a distinction. In these African countries, there are about 34 out of the 54 that criminalize LGBTQ people. And criminalization is not just about getting arrested and going to jail, it's a lot more because it licenses extreme violence. And what's really important to note is that if a refugee goes from, say, Uganda to Kenya, who's an African, by normal standards, for want of a better way, heterosexual people will be seen immediately and registered as a refugee if you leave your country and you go to another country. But if you are LGBT and you go to another country and you stake your claim, which has to be truthful, I left my country because I'm LGBT and I was being persecuted, that government in the next country, which is supposed to register you, says, I'm not going to register you. You're asking me to register you under something that we see as criminal. And so they refuse that registration. So now let's say you had a gay person who sought asylum from, say, Uganda, who's in America, and they now get sent to Ghana. They are subject to whatever rules and laws Ghana will put them through to accept their claim and to further their protection. Well, this is a terrible situation because that person is not going to have the requirements of the ACA met to be able to do that. And they're going to, more likely than not, be persecuted in that third country, Ghana. Heterosexual people don't have that layer. And so that is, I don't know if I'm answering your question at all, but that is a massive difference for LGBT people. What I find fascinating, when I first became aware that this was happening sometime a year ago, and people were calling on me to write country conditions reporting as an expert witness in these cases, I saw that some LGBT people were being sent from countries even like Ecuador, were being sent, who were gay, were being sent to kill the gays Uganda. You know, recent legislation providing for life in prison and the death penalty for LGBT people. Now, we were able to get a lot of those cases stopped. I'm concerned about the thousands probably of cases that don't have the resources of legal representation, a country conditions expert, and who's there in these different areas now that have just been put on a plane overnight. We are getting some contact from people in different situations, and it's dire and it's hair raising, and the resources are depleted. You know, it's like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
Because when this administration took over, it stopped a lot of the funding for the resources that sort of embraced the services needed. For example, UNHCR, which is the major protection agency providing services and resources on the continent of Africa, lost an enormous amount of funding. And then there was none of this backup funding for safe shelters and this kind of thing. So I know that they had to reduce their operation to the tune of about 30%. And so you're just having a massive humanitarian crisis. It has always been there as a crisis, but now it is so much worse. HIV clinic services, trauma services, it's just terrible.
And this indirectly, maybe indirectly is not the right word, but there's a dotted line to the the essential elimination of USAID, because those funds were in some cases the backboard. Even though they were there to generate sustenance, they were also there as a backboard for people who were unfortunately being displaced, that had been deported over a period of time. So this is that moment where we look at all that the administration is doing, and their goal to do what you said, which is I hadn't heard that one before, to de-brown the United States. It definitely shows that there's a tremendous amount of calculated cravenness in what this administration is doing on a federal level right now. Let's talk about this as we wrap up. Melanie, what are your steps? I guess is what comes to mind for me. What are the steps? What are the ways in which we will be able to either stop this, slow it down, or move it in the other direction? And as it relates to what the United States can be doing or should be doing?
Well, first of all, I cannot stress enough how people need to get to those midterm polls and vote the right way. Vote your conscience, vote for humanity, because ultimately, you might think you an American protected because this has got nothing to do with you, but that's not the case. It has everything to do with us, and it's beyond just the humanitarian aspect. By 2034, we thought we could eradicate HIV/AIDS, and we're seeing all sorts of diseases come back that don't need to. And, and there's also a whole lot of reasons why Africa is important to us. And so people really need to go and vote. I see every hole and vacuum being taken advantage of. And so when the right politicians, the politicians who care, are legislating and having the power to legislate, and there's a president that can sign good legislation, we need to go beyond just repairing. Because first of all, there's going to be a lot of repairing to do, and it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
We're screwed in that way. However, we cannot just do that. We have to go beyond and make sure that we shore up all these holes and all these vacuums that have allowed this to happen, right up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Right up to the Supreme Court. In my opinion, we need to have more justices. They need term limits. They need ethics. It cannot be politicized. All of that needs to happen. So there's a lot that we're going to have to do when the time comes, and it starts with voting the right way right now. I don't know that we can sustain this.
Yeah, I've said for a long time that, one of the tools that the current administration is using, and frankly, some of their global partners, and when I say that, I mean folks like the Israeli government and the Israeli military, the Russian government, the Russian military, and many others, part of their game plan, Erdogan in Turkey in his reign, part of their goal, their tool, is to distract, and to try to depress people from showing up to vote, making it harder, but also by the things that they do to make it something that is maybe life-threatening. And that's what our country is heading toward. So I know that people get tired and they get frustrated with what's happening. And I know that people need to take a break, need to take a deep breath. And I say it at the end of every show because of what we're up against. But right now, probably the number one thing that every one of us can do is to stay connected, to talk about it, to not run from it, to run toward it, and do it with a team of people. Don't do it necessarily in a silo. Melanie, it's always great to see you and talk with you. How can folks find you real quick as we wrap up today?
Appreciate that, Richard. So my website for African Human Rights Coalition is africanhrc.org, and you can see the work we're doing there. I would encourage people to consider donating to us as we try and help people. It's almost impossible, but also to even consider helping with donations to UNHCR, who do an amazing job. They're just the very little bit that we have left. And so I encourage people to, even the smallest amount of money to the UNHCR or African Human Rights Coalition or, any other such organization, it will be very well received.
Absolutely. Melanie Nathan, thank you once again for being with us. She is the executive director of the African Human Rights Coalition and one of the strong voices across the globe helping us stay on point when it comes to human rights. Thanks, Melanie, for being with us again this morning. Stay safe out there.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks so much, Richard. I really appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye now.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. This is one of those moments where we take a deep breath and we figure out what we can do. Let's take a quick break right now. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to Chew's Views. Thanks for being with us this morning. Definitely want to open the line so that if you guys want to call in about anything that we talked about today or anything that we should have talked about this week that we missed, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of space to do that. I know that one of the comments that I get, and I agree with it, is, "Hey, Chew, what about this?" Or, "Hey, Richard, what about this?" And we don't get to everything. Trust me, we try really hard. I try really hard to cover as much as we can during the course of the week. And one thing for certain is that things change and a lot pops up. But the question of the day has led to some great commentary. So I'm just going to read through a couple of the songs that as we head into the weekend are your favorite sort of rock, yacht rock songs, if that's actually a thing. Some people say that's not really a thing. But, we'll say that it is. One that comes from right here in the studio is the song Al Jarreau's Morning, if you remember. Another one, George Benson's Turn Your Love Around, and Sail On by the Commodores. There you go. Those are three great ones, all of which I like. And I've seen the artist that I've seen in concert more than any other artist is George Benson. Second to that is the late David Sanborn. And third to that is the late Al Jarreau. So what can I tell you? Those have been my three that I've seen more live than anybody else. Let's read a couple of the other ones just to have some fun with this, guys. Okay, what do we get? The Fantastic Voyage by Lakeside. Okay, we can roll with that. That's a good one. Let's see who else is out there. Chicago and Earth, Wind. Oh, thank you for, yes. I missed this. I did not know this, Henry. Chicago and Earth, Wind and Fire did play together. at the opening weekend of Northerly Island. That was a while ago. Yeah, I did. I completely missed that. But thank you, 630, for letting us know that. I was not aware of that one. This is where you go, okay, somebody knew more. Blue Collar by BTO. That fits, sure. The lyrics are great. Absolutely, 312. Let's see what Lois is upset about. She's upset, but not really about Caroline Levitt. She's not upset that she's leaving. She's upset about all the whacked out things that she's said and done. So good points there. Let's see what else we got. Tower of Power. Yes. If you love horns, and I do, then Tower of Power would definitely have been one of those groups, just like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and certainly Chicago. Let's see what else we have, guys. Cassandra in Oak Park says she's tired of these sycophants. Yes, without a doubt. Let's see what we got. Any more? We'll keep it going. Right. The song Sophie by Jeff Beck's band, Jazz Fusion. Yeah, without a doubt. Jeff Beck, one of the best guitar players of all time. I will tell you. What's the young woman's name? Henry, help me out. That plays with him on Since We've Been at His Lovers. Ed Walkenfeld. What's her name? Doggone it, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we've driven the car way off the rails into music, but it's Friday, so we'll have a little bit of fun with it. She plays that solo with him, but yeah, Jeff Beck and pretty much anything. Yeah, Tal Wilkenfield. Yeah, pretty much anything that Jeff Beck does, his jazz fusion is great, and other work. So thanks, guys. Keep it coming. That's why we did it on this Friday. What's Nancy got to say? Calypso, John Denver. Wow. Woo, Nancy took the Wayback. She took the speed train to the Wayback Machine, but that's a good one too. Yeah. The thought here, the conversation here is how much we, when I talk about staying connected, how much we are connected by music and the various styles of music. So I've said this before, and every now and again, it'll hit me. Talk about music. Talk about the connection that it's created. Talk about the great bands that came from different people. I mean, musical groups are really, I guess, a microcosm in some ways of who we are or can be as a country. When you give yourself the space to think about it that way, folks that are from different backgrounds, many times similar backgrounds, but oftentimes different backgrounds, that have come together because, a guy or a gal does an audition or is playing and somebody hears it. And then the next thing you're like, oh, that's pretty tight. Let's check that person out. And then the next thing you know, they're playing with a small group and they go on to be this legendary group or legendary compilation of different players. And one of my favorite things to see, and I was watching this last night, is when one artist whose style of music is a particular way plays with another artist whose music might be different, but let's say they play the same instrument. I'll give you an example. Talking about John Denver, is George Benson playing with Glenn. What's his name? I just drew a blank. Well, the first one that comes to mind is Carlos Santana. George Benson and Carlos Santana playing together. Rock, jazzy fusion, and more traditional jazzy R&B playing together. And Glenn Campbell, that's who I was thinking of. Glenn Campbell, George Benson playing together. What's my point? Ella Fitzgerald singing with Karen Carpenter. And the list goes on and on. Well, that's really, I think, a way of how we represent ourselves and being connected with others that may be different. How music genres are by nature, they're different. But guess what? When they come together, they create something really pretty special. And that's what I see as the opportunity right now when I talk about us coming together right now. All the different folks that are running for office and their varied backgrounds is what we mean, or at least I think we mean, by our Big Tent. So let's throw into the conversation the capacity of how music creates and gives us this this opportunity to be connected. And then use that as a it's okay to not be exactly the same, but if we can do it in a way that lets us come together, then we get the stuff done that we want. Like Melanie said, we all have to participate. We all have to show up in this election. We don't have the luxury anymore. You may have the right to not vote. You do. But the luxury to not vote, that's not on your dance card any longer. At least if you are true to wanting to see change. There are people who comment on the show, that text, that call, that email me, that send comments to our Facebook page about we should be doing it differently or better, or you guys are missing this, that, or the other. I won't disagree with you there. But the one thing that you have to then be willing to do is go, the imperfection can be made better if I show up to vote. If I don't, then all I'm really doing is just whining and complaining. And that may seem offensive to some because their response immediately might be, well, I'm not whining and complaining. I'm just speaking my mind. And how dare you blame us? Okay, are you getting into the fight or are you just standing around the ring, yelling and screaming? That's where we are. I will say this again. I told you guys over these next 80 plus days until we get to the midterms, you're going to hear me talk about this because I won't slack on my responsibility of that, which I perceive as my responsibility to talk about it. So that's how I'm really trying to get that message across. Let's bring a couple more on, and then we may take a quick break. All right, Beck, yes, Tal played because we ended as lovers with him resting. Yes, this is true. There's a great video of it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Google Jeff Beck and Tal Wachenfeld. It's one of the best solos that you'll ever see, and it's two different music types. They came together, and really a coming out party for her. Let's see what else people have to say. Thank you for that, 872. Wachenfeld, a young lady who recently playing bass. That's right, Narada Michael Walden. Yes, very much. I remember that as well. Let's see what else. Roosevelt, Robert Plant, and Allison Hughes. That's another, from different backgrounds, they came together, they got stuff done, right, Henry? That's where we are right now, guys. I know I'm using music as the vehicle to get this point across, but that's where we are. Look at music. Look at groups look at a group that you like. They came from different backgrounds. They came from different sides of town. The group Chicago. These guys came from different parts of the city of Chicago. Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Beatles, they came from similar but different backgrounds. And they came together and they said, we can do something great. We as a country right now are faced with that same opportunity. Different backgrounds, some slightly different political beliefs and viewpoints and angles about how to get it done. But at the end of the day, if we don't do that, like Melanie said, we will go in an even further awful direction. So yes, I am by design using music as my sort of catalyst to speak to this. Let's see who else has got some comments. Jeff Rafferty, Baker Street. That's a good one too. Wow. Okay, Lois went in Lois is in the way back machine, Henry. Tony Bennett and the many artists he's performed with. Absolutely. Herbie Hancock has put together some great work when he did the duets CD a few years back. Tony Bennett is another example of that. Many artists that came together, different styles. Frank Sinatra was known for this. Quincy Jones pulling together different types of music to create this great sound. That's where we are right now, guys. I believe that in my heart. I really do. That's where we are right now. So let's take advantage of that. And if music is going to be one of our connective tissues to do it, then great. That's a good thing. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chew's Views. Our good friend Kurt Herner from Akron, Ohio, sent one to us. Remembering hearing how Crocodile Rock was Joe Biden's favorite. He would drive Bo and Hunter to school, and when that Elton John song came on the radio, all three of them would rock out in the car. So there you go. Not too bad. Harry Truman by the group Chicago. Yep, that's another one. And even though we're talking about yacht rock, this is one I'll throw in the mix. How even certain yacht rock songs and chords were tied back to some of the funk music of the 60s and early 70s. So, again, my point of this is the connection, the what seemingly would be disparate parts being connected by music. Let's go to a quick call. Let's talk to our good friend, Mary Pat. Good morning, Mary Pat. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard, and thanks for lightening the mood today. I thought for sure you were going to lead into playing We Are the World.
Well, I don't want to get in any trouble with BMI and the music institutions, so we have to keep it on the rails. And the guys, they wouldn't let me do that. But that's a good one. I don't know if that's yours, but yeah, without a doubt. And look at what it did. It brought together so many different musical people. The genius of Quincy Jones, bringing together all the different folks that recorded differently, but they came together to create a song that is an iconic bit of music for the world, frankly.
That's right. It's an anthem, actually. Can I just take a moment? You're speaking about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is getting out the vote.
Definitely.
And I recently just went online and I joined the League of Women Voters. And they have a great website. It's called vote411.org. And if someone doesn't know where or how to register to vote or where to vote in their area, they can go to vote411.org and get the help they need and links to go register to vote.
Vote411.org, did you say, Mary Pat?
That's right. That's right. And it's a site that is created and run by the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan foundation or group that is all about promoting our right to vote and keeping our right to vote.
You, if I recall, Mary Pat, you went to, or you were going to an event a week or so ago that you shared with us. Did you end up going, and how did that event go?
Well, it was, not very exciting. Not much happened. Our village board decided they passed a moratorium on allowing any permitting for data centers in our village, at least for the next 6 months. I happen to live in a village where Hawthorne Racetrack is, and there's concern among people that a data center could be built there. And we don't know yet. It's a big mystery. The company that purchased the land, the parcel of land, did it in an auction, a bankruptcy auction. So we don't know what the plans are, and so our village, basically with no muss, no fuss, just voted, and said clearly that they're not going to allow any permitting for a data center at least for the next 6 months. Got it.
Well, keep us posted there. You'll be our voice on the street, or our eyes on the street when it comes to that, because obviously how we navigate data centers throughout the country is critically important right now. So thanks for that, Mary Pat. I'm going to let you go, but
Sure.
I'm going to ask you this question. Was We Are the World your yacht rock song, or do you have a different choice?
Well, I'm a bit old for yacht rock, I think. I like Jackie DeShannon and What the World Needs Now.
Yep.
Sweet love. That's more my jam.
There you go. That's all that matters, is that you've got a jam, because one thing is certain is that it does pull us together. It is a great equalizer. Someone just sent me a text. Mary Pat, be safe. Have a great weekend. And we always appreciate your contributions and your calls. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right. Be well now. Bye-bye. That's Mary Pat. She's always keeping us on our toes, and she's always active in the community. And yeah, part of my goal was, I said, let's have some fun today with the question of the day. As we head into this weekend, what is your favorite yacht rock song? And maybe it's not necessarily a yacht rock song, but it is one that, I'll probably ask a question like this again in the future. I love what one of our listeners said, that music is a great equalizer. Race, social, financial status, sexuality doesn't really matter. Talent and passion, I think that's the key word. Passion are the only things that really matter. So that's, I would certainly agree with that. Thank you for that comment. And what's interesting about it too, in terms of the passion right now, when we put that together with how we are politically, it does. I think it's incumbent upon us to have some passion about this, or maybe let me put this differently. Not feel that you have to be apologizing about being passionate about where you are in your political belief system. We are in different parts of the room or in the tent when it comes to that. But as long as we're in the tent and we're fighting, I think that's the most important thing. And if we're passionate about our position, we can be that way, but also let other people be passionate about theirs. And Henry and I were talking about this a bit earlier off air, as to, our party is a big, bold party with lots of voices and lots of smart people in it, and lots of people that want to be heard and be passionate and talk about what's important to them and make sure that they're getting, their message out, if you will. And sometimes that requires that we have to pump the brakes a little bit and listen. And sometimes that's hard to do in a moment of being passionate about something that we are that's important to us and we're driven toward. But I think that we have right now, I know for a fact that we have the energy that we need. So there's nothing wrong with raising that energy by bringing more passionate and passionate people into the conversation. I think we owe it to ourselves right now. And if this if this part of the show sounds a little motivational to you, that's what I mean it to be. It's not by accident. I want us to go into the weekend and in the days and weeks to come, not feeling that we have to be afraid to fight for what we believe in. I want that to be on the front of our chest and on the back of our chest, not hidden underneath. I want the Republicans who've been fighting against us and pushing against us and trying to beat us down politically, socially, economically. I want them to know we're coming. We're coming for taking back our democracy. I want them to hear us loud and clear. There's one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans. And there's a great line in the movie that says, "Leave no doubt. Let them know that tonight that they played against the Titans. Make them remember the night that they played against the Titans." I may not have gotten that exactly right, Mike, but the message is there. We want the Republicans to know that we are here as Democratic, progressive liberal Democrats, unapologetically, and we want them to hear us. So, in part, yes, music is sort of my vehicle to make the connection for all of us today. But be encouraged, be unapologetic in presenting to people what we believe in. Because I know, not just here in the United States, but globally, many authoritarian leaders right now, and I'm not even going to call them leaders, authoritarian thugs, want us to go and bury our heads and not come out and not fight. That's how they win. They win by getting us to think that we're crazy and to force us to think that we aren't capable and that we're wrong and all these other words of description that say that they're better than we are and that they know more. Well, right now, they're the ones that are mucking up the country and the rest of the world. They're the ones that are mucking things up, not us. Let them know that. And then every now and again, you may have to pull the coat, as my father used to say, of somebody in your own family, someone in your own personal universe, and let them know, no, I don't believe that. I'm fighting for something different. And at the end of the day, you're going to benefit from that. You're going to benefit from my fight in these areas. Let's see. We got a couple other quick messages that I want to try to get in before we get out of here today. Okay, let's see what we got. Oh, here's one. Recommended a Netflix documentary, Greatest Night in Pop, about bringing superstars together. Yeah, for real. I saw that. I know. 224, thank you. I did watch that. It's a very good documentary on bringing together all the different superstars that were part of We Are the World. So, Mary Pat, if you're listening and you haven't seen that, it's a great documentary to check out. The Greatest Night in Pop. It's really well done, and it'll surprise you too about some of the people and how they participated, why they participated, and why some did not. So that was also an interesting part of that documentary. This weekend, as I said earlier, Chicago is going to hopefully have the Air and Water Show. Those who are attending it, please be safe, because we know that it is there's a possibility of some funky weather. We got another one. Oh yeah, thank you, Nancy, for reminding us of this. As the weather goes and has gone recently here in the Chicago area or the Upper Midwest more broadly, we've had a lot of people that have been without power. So those, we want to give a shout out. Thank you, Nancy, for reminding us of this, to folks in the south suburban area of Chicago and northwestern Indiana that may still be without power. So if you know anyone that's in that, you might live in California right now, or you could be in Washington. But if you know someone that's in that part of the country, in south suburbs of Chicago or in northwestern Indiana, they have been without power for a day and a half now. Almost 2 days since this latest storm blew through. If you know someone in that area, you might want to reach out to them, give them a call or whatever you can try to reach out to them. Hopefully they've been able to charge their phones, because there has been some pretty widespread power outages in that part of the country. So just check in on your folks, as we always try to say. Trump voters are fleeing him, guys. That's a reality. The mainstream media, corporate media may not be talking about it, but they are fleeing him. And the reason that they won't talk about it is because they know that if they do and they speak the truth about it, it will probably accelerate it in some ways. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it may push the narrative even further. So when you think about it from that standpoint, that these voters that have been following Trump for a long time are starting to seep away, what does that do for us? It goes back to what I said earlier about being unapologetic and being strong about where we are and letting people know that we're here. The noise, those footsteps that you hear, that's us. And we're here to fight. We're here to do what we've got to do to take back this thing that we call our democracy, our country, and frankly, a better place for many people throughout the world. So let's stay on that track. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us this week. Thanks to all of our guests. Boy, did we have a phenomenal number of people that were on the show throughout the course of the week, and we appreciate our guests always. We appreciate your calls and comments. Keep it up. Get your notebooks ready for next week, because we're going to be busy then as well. Thanks to the team here. As always, they make it happen. They're the folks that are in the kitchen making that good gumbo. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. Make sure you pay attention and listen to Joan Esposito. She's got great guests this afternoon. Patty Vasquez, Edwin Eisendrath tomorrow, and, of course, Out Chicago on Sunday. Family meeting also. Got to check them out. Thanks, guys. Make it a great weekend. Stay tuned for Stephanie Miller. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you next week.